Right. Can you hear me? Students, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Right. So far we discuss multiplicative model and additive model, right? So that we completed the multiplicative model. Can you see the screen? Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. Right. So we halfway we completed the additive model. So if you remember the time series, it's kind of I just reminding what we have already discussed. So the time series is kind of observation we made over the equal time gap. It may be yearly, weekly, right? So we are going to forecast based on this historical time series data. So we are using two models. Actually, these are the decomposing models, decomposing approaches. So the decomposing in the sense we break down the components in the time series. So basically 4 components included in the time series: trend, cyclical, seasonal, and irregular component. The could you please right? Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. So we discuss the time series component. So we discuss 4 component, and decomposing in the sense we break down these component, and we identify these components and then remove these component. Based on that, we forecast the deseasonalized sales. Deseasonalized sales in the sense after removing this seasonal and irregular component. Since we are consider the less than 1 year period, so we are not much concerned about the cyclical component, because cyclical in the sense upward or downward movement for more than 1 year. So it's difficult to predict, and it's some kind of unpredictable information can be there. So therefore we are just focus on the seasonal and irregular component. Then we identify at the first step the seasonal and irregular component. First, we remove the irregular components by getting the averages. Then by calculating seasonal adjusted index, we are removing the seasonal effect as well. Then we forecast the deseasonalized sales. Based on the deseasonalized sales, we identify the trend line. Then trend line, by using the trend line, we reverse it. We reverse the by using the adjusted seasonal index and calculate it, calculate the forecasted actual sales, right? Okay, so we calculated seasonal adjusted seasonal index, right? Then we are going to calculate the deseasonalized sales. Before that, if I just reminding the how to calculate the seasonal and irregular component in additive model. Usually we calculate the 4 period moving average. Again, since it's even number, we again calculated centered moving average. After calculating centered moving average, so we get the averages, and we calculate the seasonal factor by dividing sum of these average from the number of seasons, and we subtract seasonal factor from the average. We subtract seasonal factor from the average, then we calculate the adjusted seasonal index, right? Adjusted seasonal index. Then we copy this adjusted seasonal index into our table. Here, if you remember, the seasonal and irregular component is calculated. We subtract centered moving average from the actual sales, then we derive the seasonal irregular component, right? Right. Let's see how to calculate the deseasonalized sales, right? Deseasonalized sales. In additive model, we can calculate the deseasonalized sales, actual sales minus adjusted seasonal index, right? So we remove this index value from the actual sales, right? Then we can calculate the deseasonalized sales, right? So what we did is actual sales minus adjusted seasonal index, right? Right. Then we just drag it down. We copied for the existing information, for the existing sales information. So then we can calculate the deseasonalized sales, right? Deseasonalized sales. What do you understand by deseasonalized sales? What do you understand by deseasonalized sales? Anyone? The forecasted sales after removing the seasonal and irregular component, right? So that's the forecasted. So rather than we can say the sales after removing the seasonal and irregular component, right? Seasonal and irregular component. Right. Let's see how we can draw it in our scatter plot, right? Let's add the deseasonalized sales, select data, then we can add it, name deseasonalized sales, X in the sense time, Y is always dependent, that is deseasonalized sales. Remember, don't mix up the X and Y axis. Be careful, otherwise you will you won't be able to get the actual figure, right? See what has happened, that the line has moved, right? The fluctuations has changed. The fluctuations has changed. Right? Right. So then the fluctuations has smooth, right? The line has smooth. Right. Now we are going to derive the trend line. So trend line, we can add the trend line, right? So with the equation, yes. So again, do the chart. Yes, I'll do it. Right. We just right click on the scatter plot. Then the select data. I'm not sure. It's most similar to the Windows. I think it's most similar menu in the Windows as well, right? So then we add another scatter plot. Name is deseasonalized sales. So the name you don't want to type, so just select. Then x-axis is the time variable, that is up to 12. Up to 12. Then y-axis, right? Deseasonalized sales. Right. So if you go through the handout, right? Additive model. Here, all the steps are given, calculating in period, and also the values are given. Here the sales, then centered moving average, then seasonal and irregular component, then seasonal indexes, right? Based on the seasonal indexes, we calculate deseasonalized sales, right? So then we are going to project the trend, right? We are going to forecast the trend, that is T or Y, it's almost same. Y equal A plus BX, that is A in the sense intercept and B in the sense slope, and the T represent the time, right? Let's see how we can forecast, right? Let's add the trend line. With the equation. Then we can increase the font size. Here. So we can follow the two way. So we are going to apply this trend function or y equal a plus bx, right? This is the function or trend function, right? So we can predict the y at once, right? We can calculate, we can give the intercept and slope at once rather than separately calculating. Let's see, equal, then intercept, 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 right? Non-y, in the sense y-axis here, y-axis, right? So the y-axis, then it won't change, even drag, it won't change. So therefore we need to convert as an absolute cell, right? So then press function key F4, right? Comma, then non-x in the sense, non-x in the sense, non-x in the sense, the time, then it should be fix it, right? Now we derive the intercept, right? The time variable and the sales, right? Okay. Remember, we need to fix it as an absolute cell. Plus, then we need to calculate the slope. Slope, almost same earlier process, but the thing is we are applying at once. Slope, slope of the function, same, this y axis data, y-axis data. So then it should be fix it, comma. Remember, you need to put the comma. Then x-axis, non-x up to 12. Then it should also fix it. Close the bracket. Right? Then multiply by this time the given time variable, the forecasted time variable. It's 13, 14, and 15, 16 observation we are going to make. Then press enter. Right? We don't want to separately calculate it. Right? So here is the function. right? Intercept plus slope and multiply by time. So we can separately calculate it. Otherwise, we can even in multiplicative model. So we can apply this way. We can apply, we can calculate intercept and slope and then multiply at once rather than separately calculating, right? Right. Now we can calculate the forecasted sales. So anyone tell me how we can calculate? So we have the deseasonalized sale, adjusted seasonal index. So we derive the deseasonalized sales. We subtract adjusted seasonal index from the sales. So then how we can derive the forecasted sales? How we can derive deseasonalized sales plus adjusted seasonal index. Six, right? 6.66, 15.19 and 15.11. This is forecasted sales based on the additive model, so that it's something different. Even we use the same data, you can see that little different in two models, right? So therefore, be careful when we apply the correct model, right, based on the behavior of the time series, right? So how do we decide which model is applicable? Could you please anyone tell me? How do we decide which model is applicable? Then could you tell me anyone? How do we decide? How do we decide? So if the seasonal fluctuations are constant, so then we select the additive model, right? So if you remember, right? So therefore, be careful. The model is most important. Which model is applicable, right? This is how. So if the seasonal fluctuations are constant or it's not followed the trend line, right? The seasonal fluctuation in the sense this one curve, right? Within 1 year, all the fluctuations are same, but here this one, it's something it's follow, it's that the curves that these fluctuations are high, right? So the fluctuations are high, but here it's constant, right? It's if the seasonal seasonal peak remain constant or seasonal fluctuations are constant, then we go for the additive. If the seasonal fluctuations are follow the trend, so then we go for the multiplicative model, right? Right, let's bring this forecasted data into our X scatter plot, select data. Let's add, first add these forecasted deseasonalized sales. Deseasonalized sales. Then we can add X and Y. Remember, just start from the last observation. Then press OK. Right, so it's follow the same trend, right? Then let's predict the actual sales. We can add another series. Forecasted sales 2022 X is time, Y is forecasted sales. Then press OK. So you can see it followed the same trend. So based on that, we can forecast it, right? So it seems our forecast is follow the same trend, right? It's something if we made some wrong forecasting, right? So let's see, it's this is just 4 and this is just 6, the 4, and this is just 5, and this is just 3. What will happen? See, it's if it's not follow the same this process, so this figure it's not follow the same trend, but since we follow the yes, so x-axis again show. Okay, right, x-axis is the time, right? Let me add x-axis is this time, right? The time variable starting from the last actual data point. So what will happen if I start, if I not started from here, our figure will break, right? So if I start from only at the see what will happen, it's not continue, right? So there's a break. That's why we start from the last point. So අද lesson එක recording එක LMS එකට upload කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? current එක කපලා නිසා signal මදි. Right. After finish the lesson, I will upload all the lessons, right? After finish the lesson, even if it is continuing, I will upload it. Definitely I will upload it, right? Right. So we start from the last point, right? Then press OK, right? Right, this is how we apply the additive model. We have the historical data, then we calculate the seasonal moving average based on the number of season moving average. If the seasons are even, then we again go for the centered moving average. Then we derive seasonal and irregular component by subtract centered moving average from the actual sales. Then we calculate the adjusted seasonal index, right, to remove the seasonal effect, right? After removing the seasonal and irregular component, we calculate the deseasonalized sales. Then we predict the trend of deseasonalized sales, right? We predict the deseasonalized trend based on the deseasonalized sales. Right. So then based on that, we calculate the actual sales, right? Right, these are the two methods we can use for the decomposing and predict the forecasted information, predict the future based on the time series data, right? Let's see one additional activity, right? So then we finish this two models, right? Let's see, right? Please copy this information into your Excel sheet and we'll do it. Here you have not given the which model is applicable, we have to decide, right? Let me change the periods. Right, so please copy this information. So you have data from 2017 to 2022 quarterly sales, right? So then we do need to forecast the sales for the 2022. Please copy this information into your Excel. So if you have any question, you can ask. When you finish it, please raise your hand. Have you finished? Please let me know those who have finished, right? So the time is enough, I think. Don't take much time. At the exam, you have to, I think, even in the online exam, you will be given the practical questions, right? Separately attached. So then you have to manage your time within 1.5 hours. Maximum of you will be given 1.5 hours. 2 questions are given in practical so far, but I don't know whether your attempt is changed or not. So therefore, the typing speed is most important. That's why I'm giving you a time to type all this information. Otherwise, I can give you. Right. The first step is if you have this kind of information, this is the information you have. You don't know which model is applicable, right? Then first step is you need to derive the scatter plot, right? Based on the existing data. Right? Scatter plot. Right. This is the scatter plot. Then what do you think? Which model is applicable? Anyone? Please give your answers. You can send through the chat, or you can unmute and
Multiplication, sir.
yes. Anyone else? Multiplicative model, right? Multiplication, it's not multiplication. The model is multiplicative and additive. Anyone else? Anyone else? Then what is it? What do you think? See what look like. So basically, we just look like how it's look like, right? There's no mathematical method exactly designed, but we decide it based on the answers coming multiplicative. So if you see the additive multiplicative model, yes, yeah. In multiplicative model, right? See, this is how it differ, right? This is something constant, right? So, but here, if you can see, it's follow the trend. That means it's over the period is that the fluctuations are expanded, right? But here you can see that almost same, right? It's focus, it falls into a two parallel line, right? If you close it here, almost same. So then the answer is coming, it's additive. Yes, it's additive model, right? This is how you decide the which model is applicable. If you go wrong, so then all the predictions will go wrong, right? So therefore be careful when you apply the correct model, right? Now it's look like additive. So then we can follow the same procedure, right? Since we have 4 quarters, so we can, first step, we can go for the 4 period moving average. So you can work with me, right? Please, you can follow me, right? Right, just get the, we starting from third, right? Then we just double click on the, what I did is, right, average, then just select first 4 quarters, then close the bracket, then enter. Then if you select this and here that the cross mark, then double click on it, then it's automatically copied, but this part is not needed. Then you can delete it, because from here it's the last data points is covered, are covered, right? Now we calculate the average, 4 period moving average. Then since we have even number of season, again we need to go for the average, 2 period moving average equal average 2 period, close the bracket, press enter, double click on it. This part is not needed because the last point is covered from here. Right. Then we are going to decomposing the seasonal and irregular component, right? We are going to decompose, right? We are going to break down, right? Decomposing in the sense breaking down. Seasonal and irregular components recognize karanne, right? So then in additive model, we deduct, we subtract centered moving average from the actual sales, right? So here is the actual sales minus centered moving average. It's 8.78. Then double click on it. This part is not needed. Right? It's 8.78, 98.89. So these are the seasonal and irregular component, right? That is fluctuation within the 1 year and unexpected fluctuations in the time series. It's get the difference from the average, right? So then that's from the average difference. So it says seasonal and irregular component, right? Then we are going to calculate the adjusted seasonal index, right? Adjusted seasonal index. we need to get the average, right? Then we can use average if function. Average if function. Average if function. Average if function. Then we are going to give the range in the sense quarter. Select the correct quarters from here to this point, right? Then it should be fixed, comma. Criteria is we need to get the averages of same quarters, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's getting all one. This is the range in the sense these are the could you please give me 1 second? Right? So the range in the sense which quarters we are going to get the averages. So then criteria is we need to get the 4 quarters, right? Right, then comma, don't fix it. Then averages are given here. These are the averages, average values, right? So it also fix it with function key F4, then close the bracket, right? Are you clear? Right. Here is the average of each quarter, right? Same quarter averages, right? Let me do it again, right? I think hope you all familiar with this. Average if range in the sense correct range. අපි මේ area එකේ තමයි මේ range එකේ තියෙන averages තමයි ගන්නෙ. Right, 3 to here. Be careful when you select it. Yes, sir, can you do it again? Yes. Here is the area, right? Then press F4. So then it fix it. Then select the criteria. Criteria in the sense which quarters we are going to get the average. right? It speaks all 1 here. අපි මේ රේන්ජ් එක දුන්නම් මේකේ තියෙන 1 එකේ තියෙන values ටික ගන්න ඔක්කොම ඊට පස්සේ 2 එකේ තියෙන values ටික ගන්නවා 3 එකේ 4 එකේ right ඒක තමයි මෙතන කියන්නේ මේ 1 2 3 4 කියලා කියන්නේ 1 විදියට තියෙන average ගන්නවා 2 වලට තියෙන average ගන්නවා 3 වලට තියෙන average ටික ගන්නවා 4 වලට තියෙන average ටික ගන්නවා right ඊළඟට අපි දෙන්න ඕනේ what are the averages what are the averages for each quarter, right? Select it, then fix it. Remember, you need to fix as absolute cells. Then press enter. Then drag over the period. Then get the sum of these averages. Right? Then seasonal factor. Calculate the seasonal factor if you remember. Calculate the seasonal factor and adjust the seasonal index and prepare the seasonal index. Now it's time for work. Yes. Yes. Do it. Calculate the adjusted seasonal index, please. Right? Seasonal factor can be calculated. That should be fixed. Divided by 4. That is 13.61 minus adjusted seasonal index can be calculated subtract the seasonal factor from the average. That is 107. Then we can, right? What I did is average minus seasonal factor. Don't worry about the plus and minus. It's automatically taken the correct values, right? Then we get the transpose. Equal transpose. Select it. Then while pressing Control, Shift and press Enter. Then we can, if you want, you can select as it is, or else we can use, we can define the name, right? We can define the name for this area, right? Seasonal index, adjusted seasonal index. Adjusted adjusted. You can't keep the space. If you want to keep the space, you can put the underscore. Adjusted seasonal. You can't keep the space, right? Seasonal index. So if you see this, if you select this area, you can see here, it's adjusted seasonal index. Even you add another cell, if you same sheet, if you want adjusted seasonal index, right? Somewhere else it's automatically taken, right? That's the useful, that's how it's used, right? So anywhere in the same spreadsheet, even you add different sheets, you can copy, right? So that is how it's how much important, right? You can copy over here even in a different sheet, right? So then we can copy the adjusted seasonal index into our table. So here you can define formula. Here the define, right? Define. This is the way you can apply, right? Here we look up quarter. Then column adjusted seasonal. You can just type adjusted seasonal index A. When you type A, it's automatically comes. Then double click on it, press it, comma. Then you should get the value from the second column, right? Then second column. Then press enter. You can see that it's automatically copied. use as much as easy steps, right? I'll do it again. What I did is VLOOKUP function. We are using VLOOKUP, vertical lookup, right? The VLOOKUP in the sense vertical. We copy the same data over the vertical, right? VLOOKUP. We are going to get quarterly data. So then we select the lookup value, which is quarterly information we are copying, then comma. If you want, here we have another table that seasonal index. So if you need, so then seasonal index, right? Because it's relevant to the previous example. So even you are copy somewhere else, so you can use same data for the different table. But here we need adjusted seasonal index, then just type adjusted seasonal, then click on it. Remember, when you keep the space, you can use the underscore, right? Don't keep the space, right? It's not accepted in the Excel, keeping spaces. Then comma, then 2, right? Right. Then we can calculate the deseasonalized sales, right? Deseasonalized sales. How do we calculate deseasonalized sales? Actual sales minus adjusted seasonal index. This part is not applicable. Any questions so far? So here is deseasonalized sales. Have we finished? Right. So we can add the deseasonalized sales. right? X-axis, Y-axis, you can see it's smooth the line, further smooth, right? So here we can add the trend line. Right. Then we can forecast the de-season light sales. Please do it. Please do it yourself. Please apply the formula. Right, intercept, we can start from intercept. Intercept, non-Y, it should be fix it, comma, non-X, it should be fixed, close bracket, plus slope, slope, again non-Y, it should be fix it, comma, then non-X, it should be fix it, then close the bracket and multiply by the corresponding time. Press enter. Here It's missing. Now these are the forecasted deseasonalized sales. Right, forecasted deseasonalized sales. Let's add the deseasonalized sales. Forecasted D sales X and Y. You see it's follow the same pattern, and let's see the forecasted sales deseasonalized sales plus adjusted seasonal index. Right, let's bring it to a scatter plot. Forecasted sales forecasted sales non-X non-Y. Here this area, right, you can see it's follow the same trend, same pattern. Overall trend is upward. So then it followed the same pattern. Right. This is how we can forecast the sales or whatever the time series data based on the additive model and the multiplicative model, right? So here we decomposing the component and we calculate the deseasonalized sales, which is removing the seasonal and irregular component. Then we predict the trend line. Based on the trend line, we forecast the actual sales, right? Any question? Any point if you missed? Right, any questions? Yes, chat. yes transpose transpose is, this is how. Remember, you need to select these 4 cells at first, right? Don't select just this cell. You need to select these 4 cells. Otherwise, it won't, that transpose function is not applied, right? Select all these 4 cells. Then you can press equal, right? Then type transpose. Then just select the values you need to get the transpose. Transpose in the sense we just convert the direction, right? We just change the direction, right? Then close the bracket. After closing the bracket, don't press the enter. You need to press Control Shift. While pressing the Control Shift, then press enter, right? While pressing Control and Shift, then press enter. Otherwise, it won't apply, right? Any question? Any question? Right. So far, we completed 2 approaches, right? Multiplicative and additive model. Right. You can see that all the calculations and all the notes are given in the handout. If you miss any point, please read the handout. Additive model. Then so smoothing methods, based on the smoothing method, we can forecast, right? So I will start this area from next Friday, right? I just stop from this and we'll start the smoothing method on Friday, right? And hopefully I would be able to complete the time series topic, right? Then for the today, I just stop from here. Please practice it, and please much concerned about the time you are consuming to complete this activity. Most probably this kind of activities will come for the exam, right? Even so you may given limited number of data, and you need to follow all these process, right? So you'll be given 2 or 3 years, two years to get minimize the time consumed. So then, but you have to follow all these steps, right? Therefore, keep in understand and practice it. Right. I stop from here. If you have, I will upload these 2 activities, right? I will upload these 2 activities. I have already uploaded last activity. Right. So you can download from here. Here is the completed activity. I will upload these two activities as well. Right. Please practice it, and we will meet on next Friday. Right. Thank you very much for joining. We will meet again on Friday. Right. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.